Welcome to Lyrically Provoked. I'm your host, James Phillip. I take little snippets of songs and other parts of pop culture and just give you some different ideas and thoughts that maybe the original songwriter didn't intend. You can follow me on Instagram and YouTube. You can naturally find this any place that, you can download a podcast. If you have a song in mind that you would like me to give you some insights on, or maybe even make an episode, drop me a DM or an email and then we'll see what happens. For now, let's jump in. Today, we're going to cover a Korn song called Narcissistic Cannibal. There's a line in the song that goes, "Sometimes I hate the life I made." And, I'm sure Jonathan had some different ideas when he was singing that song, but, for me personally, I think of, friends and family, people that I employ, people I've mentored, people that just have come and gone in my life. I think about how many times I've, witnessed this, where you just come across people that are unhappy, they feel trapped, they feel stuck, they have regrets, they don't know where to go from here, they don't know how life's going to turn out, and I think one of the worst things that can ever happen is, waking up in the morning and saying, "I hate my life." So if you're in your 20s and you're listening to this, think about some of the decisions you're making right now. I doubt there's a whole lot of repercussions from your teens, and unless you fucked up high school and you didn't get to go to college or something. So you may not be fully, feeling this right now, but I guarantee you in 10 or 15 years, you might think about this episode again. If you're in your 30s and 40s, 50s, you start thinking about some of the decisions you made, 15, 20 years ago. Maybe you're happy in life, and, maybe this episode might not be for you, but, if you're not happy with life, which, a lot of people just, they get to that midlife section and they're just not happy, then this episode is for you. We're told to chase our passions and create the life we want, and then sometimes we don't really think about what the hell that life's going to look like when we actually get it. So, that old saying, be careful what you wish for, you just might get it. And then sometimes we get that shit and it's like, oh man, this isn't what I thought it was. But sometimes I think that's everything in life. Everything that you think is going to be so great and so awesome and you dream about it. Then when that day comes, you're like, yeah, this wasn't as exciting as I thought it was going to be. So, I think when you look at life from a holistic level and you create this whole life you wanted, and then sometimes you get there and it's just like, oh man, this ain't what I want no more. In a weird way, you can kind of create as many lives as you want. Fitzgerald, I think it was Fitzgerald, I might be misquoting this, but he said there's no second acts in American lives, and I think he was actually talking about New York City, but in a sense, we can have as many acts as we want. This isn't a 2-act life, you can have a 5-act life. Shit, how many times you've seen that person that's been on their 3rd or 4th marriage move to their 5th city, it's on their 3rd career, and sometimes those people get looked down upon, but I gotta look at them and say, okay, they're gonna just keep moving until they find happiness. It's better than just sitting around and just being miserable and waiting around like at the fucking deli counter waiting for your ticket to come in to die. Like, that's just probably not the best way to go. I'd rather see someone that just keeps moving and trying to keep reinventing themselves, looking for happiness instead of just being miserable for the rest of their life. In my own life, I think back to, I had this high-flying tech career in my teens and early 20s and parlayed that into creating some startup companies, and I had a lot of success in my 20s, and that left me in my 30s thinking, what the fuck am I gonna do now? I was almost like a junkie looking for my next fix. It's like, where am I gonna get that next high? What's gonna give me that adrenaline rush in the morning? Like, I got so much excitement from building that career, being on the forefront of things, growing companies. It's like, what the hell am I gonna do now to replace that? And I don't know if I ever came up with that answer other than I'm going to, keep working on my books and, other content and messing around with my music. But, it was really hard to try to replicate some of those highs in your 20s. And I've seen a lot of people that had success early on in life. We're used to peaking maybe at 45, 50, 55 years old in your careers. And in this new world, we peak a lot earlier now. And at some point, in some industries, if you're 50 years old, you get looked down upon. You're almost too seasoned. So it's like life gets shifted a little bit where we're living longer, but we're having success earlier. So they keep running into these people that, in a similar sense, not just careers, but their whole life, they're not happy with it. And I didn't realize that when I was younger. I started a recruiting company, and I'd be calling on candidates, trying to get them to go work for my client. And a lot of times my client would be closer to home for them, and it'd be less hours. And I'm a naive 20-year-old. I don't know what the hell's going on. I think I got the world figured out. I got the answer to everything, which I didn't know shit. But I'm talking to these candidates. I was like, man, this job's 15 minutes closer. Get you a little more money, less drive. Life's pretty good, right? And how many times did I hear someone go, James, listen, man, I don't really want to go home. I don't like my spouse, and we fight a lot, and I'd rather just be in the office, and I like driving home for an hour, and that's just kind of how things are right now. And other times I've heard people didn't want to go home to deal with their kids, and I realized a lot of times someone had kids to just make their partner happy, and maybe they didn't actually want to have kids. So the thought of getting home early to these people was not a selling point. And I'm sitting there like, man, I don't understand, because I'm just, again, 20 and think I got the world figured out, and I don't know shit. And I realize now, just talking to people over the last 20 years, that, not everyone's really that happy with life. And, these people were happy, working till 6 o'clock and then driving home for an hour, and it's like sanctuary time, their peace and quiet, where they could just listen to the radio or the news, and before they got home, where it just wasn't a happy place. So, it's kind of eye-opening to me later in life, and it all started to make sense that, man, just everyone's not going to be happy in this world. You think people got the world by the ass, and at the end of the day, they don't. They're kind of just suffering inside. So what I did look at is, how do you get happy? And when I started pinging people, just say, hey man, why don't you make some changes? Or maybe you need to get out of that relationship, maybe you need to get out of that career. And they think the transition is going to cause them a lot more pain than they're currently going through, so they just stick around. And while I get that, I just feel like sometimes you're just going to have to spend 6 months of going through hell, knowing that there's happiness on the other side. And many times in life, we're taken to hell and we come back, but it doesn't mean that that's going to be the only trip. In this case, some people would rather just be miserable and kind of coast through life and figure it out later. Not sure I recommend that. The idea of waking up every morning and feeling trapped is just not wonderful. So every time I hear that Korn song and the lyric hits, sometimes I hate the life I made, I'm like, well, shit, that's got to be half of this world. We set out on this path and we go create this life, and we don't like that life, or maybe we married somebody and people change. You're fundamentally different at 30 than you were at 20. You're certainly different at 40 than you were at 20. And you marry someone and people change, you change, they change, and sometimes things just don't work out, but we stay together. Some people stay together for the kids. You stay in a career because you've been at somewhere for 10, 15 years, and again, the thought of change sounds risky and crazy. You're not happy with your job, and the problem is trying to retool a career at like 45 or 50 right now is almost impossible. The world is not kind to people that are older. It's like all the emphasis is on youth, and they're the ones that understand technology, and the thought that I'm just going to sit around and coast as long as I can is actually hurting you, because you're not going to transition at 52. It's going to be goddamn difficult, and you should have just done it at 42, because you had the opportunity then, but you spent a decade being miserable, not making changes, not trying to progress and get further. And I can't imagine spending 10 years just being unhappy. And that's like just misery if you think about it. So, but again, if you're in your 20s, I think this is a good episode to maybe just think about the future. And you probably haven't made a whole lot of decisions that are tripping you up right now, but maybe you will make some different decisions when you start thinking about where am I going to be at 30, 35. Screw the emphasis on, I don't need everything figured out right now. Sometimes I think you need to pay attention to these people that are preaching to you because they're social media influencers, and you realize that they become that big and that large, become influencers by telling you what you want to hear. I mean, who wants to be told you need to get your shit together at 24? I mean, no one wants to hear that. So I go tell you the opposite, and I can build a bigger audience. But in reality, that is probably the world's worst advice in a society where we value youth. And your 20s, many of you don't have kids or spouses, and your health is good and you got energy. Like, these are the years you're supposed to go do something and make some shit happen. But, there's people out there telling you to wait. I'm saying don't wait. Those people built their audiences by telling you the shit you want to hear. Because it's really hard to build an audience by telling people the things they don't want to hear. And it's usually the things that you don't want to hear is what you need to hear. So, again, if you're listening in your 20s, take action. No time like the present to just get moving. If you're in your 30s and 40s and listening to this, or 50s, who knows? I don't know who's even listening to this shit, but don't feel trapped, man. I've seen those people. I know those people. Some days I felt that way, particularly just a handful of years ago, trying to figure out what the hell is my purpose in the morning. And if I think it back to the dinosaur ages, we probably only lived till we were 40. And, by the time you're 40, if you didn't die of natural causes, then shit, some fucking dinosaur probably gobbled you up for a 2-piece snack. And now we live in a world where you live till you're 70, 80, 90 years old. And sometimes I wonder, are we living, way farther than we were ever intended to? So if you're 35, 40, 45 years old and you start feeling like you don't have a purpose, I think that's natural, man, because a long time ago we'd have probably already be dead. But on that note, you need a reason to get up in the morning and get moving. It doesn't need to be profound. You don't need to be saving the world. Maybe you just need a hobby, but there's got to be something that blows your hair back. Because just waking up every day, just going out to grind, trying to make some money to pay your bills, and all you can think about is one day when I get to retirement, that is not a good way to live. So just think about it's probably completely natural to be thinking this way, that I don't know what's next. I don't know what to do now, and you got to hang on long enough to figure out what that is. And I think with all the opportunities in the world, we can find something that will keep us busy, that will give us a little bit of motivation in the morning, and maybe we'll never escape that feeling of being trapped, but at least waking up in the morning with a reason to move and having some purpose and something to look forward to, that should give you a little bit of happiness and a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. But that's my thoughts on this topic. Think about the lyrics. Sometimes I hate the life I made, and hell, drop me a comment on YouTube or Instagram. Maybe these lyrics mean something different to you. Again, it's not my intentions to interpret what the original songwriter meant. It's just sometimes I hear something and it just sparks all these thoughts and emotions, and I wanted to share that with you guys. But until then, make sure you follow me on Instagram and YouTube. I'll see you on the next episode. Take care until then.